Hello, welcome to another basic science class. I know you've been enjoying all our classes, and so I have a question. It is, what is the cause of diarrhea? Have you ever maybe had diarrhea before? Have you, like, you were just going to the toilet often and often and often, and as if it was not going to stop? You were having running stool and running stomach, and your stomach was just spinning you and turning and the rest like that. So what is the cause of diarrhea? So that will lead us to a topic today, which is perishable, semi-perishable, and non-perishable foods. If you have been following us before now, you will know that we've been on the series of food storage actually, and I promised in the first video on that food storage that we're going to discuss perishable food, semi-perishable food, and non-perishable foods in the subsequent video, and this is the video I was talking about. So at the end of today's lecture, you should be able to define perishable foods, that is, define and identify them. Okay, let me get there first. Then define semi-perishable foods, define non-perishable food, and also give example of each of them, that is both perishable foods, semi-perishable food, and non-perishable food. You should be able to give example of each of them, and also state how to store each of the foods. So when you come across these foods, you should know how to store them properly. So perishable foods, what are they? Perishable foods are those that have a limited shelf life and can quickly spoil if not stored properly. So they have a limited shelf life, a short shelf life, and they can quickly spoil if you don't store them properly. They are usually fresh and require refrigeration to maintain their quality and safety. They are usually fresh and they require refrigeration to maintain their quality and safety. So let's look at example of this perishable food. We have fresh fruits and vegetables. These are examples of very perishable fruits. We also have dairy products like milk, cheese, and yogurt. Those are dairy products: milk, cheese, and yogurt. We also have meats, poultry, and seafood. Your meat, poultry, and seafood such as fish, your prawns, and the rest like that, they are all perishable foods. And you have your eggs. Eggs are perishable food. You have daily meats and prepared salad. Daily meats such as your corned beef, that is a processed meat or pre-cooked meats. These are what we call daily meats. And prepared salad are perishable food. So how do you store this perishable food? Because these are the food we have in our homes from day to day. So how do we store them to keep them intact? Proper storage of perishable food is crucial to maintain its freshness, one, its nutritional value, and safety. Perishable foods are highly susceptible to spoilage due to rapid growth of bacteria and other microorganisms at room temperature. And why are they susceptible to spoilage? Because they have high moisture content. And so because they have high moisture content, bacteria can easily act on them, and although microorganisms too can easily act on them at room temperature. So essential tips for storing perishable food. What are the tips you need for storing perishable food? Refrigerate promptly. Don't keep them down. Since you know that these are perishable food, refrigerate them promptly. Perishable foods should be refrigerated promptly after purchase or preparation. Once you purchase them and you get to your home or your house, whichever, or we are finished preparing them, just keep them in the fridge. Don't keep them on the shelf or keep them in one pot and just leave them keep them in the fridge. Aim to refrigerate within 2 hours, at the most 2 hours, or 1 hour if the ambient temperature is above 90 degrees Fahrenheit or 32 degrees centigrade. Then the next is keep refrigerator temperature at 40 degrees Fahrenheit, that is about 4 degrees centigrade or below. So your refrigeration should be between either 4 degrees centigrade. Keep it below it. The refrigerator should be set to a temperature of 40 degrees Fahrenheit or lower to slow bacterial growth and maintain the food quality. The next is separate raw and cooked foods. We have been saying this over and over again. Separate your raw and cooked foods. Don't keep them together. Keep raw meats, poultry and seafood separate from cooked foods and ready to eat items to avoid cross-contamination. Then the next is to use airtight containers. Store perishable foods in airtight containers or wrap them tightly with plastic wrap or aluminum foil to prevent exposure to air and avoid odors from transferring. I know in one of the videos I talked about, we talked about heat, light and oxygen being one of the causes why food spoils faster. So you can keep them in airtight container to prevent their exposure to air, in order to extend their shelf life. The next is label and date. Label containers. As you put those containers in the fridge, label them on so date. That was when you put it. You can use your tape to tape your label to your container, or you buy ready-made labels and you just put the name or the date on it. So label containers with the content and date of storage to track freshness and prevent confusion. So when you have them in excess, you'll not be confused. Where did I put this here? Did I put this before that? No. So once you have the date on it, it helps you to track their freshness and also to prevent confusion. Next is use refrigerator drawers correctly. So use refrigerator drawers correctly. Use designated fruits and use designated drawers in the refrigerator for fruits and vegetable, as they may require different humidity levels. Yes, there are some fruit that comes in compartments, and the higher is freezer, then followed by another one that has a higher temperature, then followed by the least with lower temperature. So use the right compartment for the right perishable food. So wrap fruits and vegetables. That's another one. Wrap fruits and vegetables. Some fruits and vegetables produce ethylene gas that can speed up ripening and spoilage. So wrap them in separate plastic bags to control the ripening process. And the next is store raw meat on the bottom shelf. Store raw meat on the bottom shelf. So to prevent any potential drippings from contaminating other food, store your raw meat or poultry and seafood on the lowest shelf in the refrigerator to prevent cross contamination. Another is to rotate items. When restocking the refrigerator, please place newer items behind older ones to ensure that older items are used first. So you don't keep maybe you went to the market and you got some bananas or you got some oranges or whatever fruits, and when you got to the fridge or to the shelf in the fridge, you didn't even care to bring out the first one, the ones that were there before now, the previous ones, to bring them out first. You just put them together. No. Rotate items. Bring the ones that were there before them out first. Then put the ones that you just got newly behind them, so that you can use the older one first. Use the older items first. Then check expiration dates. That's the date of they will be expiring. Check the expiration dates. Regularly check the expiration dates of perishable items and discard any that have expired. Another is avoid overcrowding. Avoid overpacking the refrigerator, as this may hinder proper air circulation, leading to uneven cooling. So don't overcrowd the refrigerator. Don't overcrowd it. Then follow storage guidelines. Adhere to specific storage recommendations for different perishable items, such as dairy products, your cooked leftovers, and daily meats. Follow the specific guidelines for them. So now let's look at our semi-perishable foods. So what are semi-perishable foods? Semi-perishable foods have a longer shelf life compared to perishable foods, but are still more susceptible to spoilage than non-perishable foods. So they can spoil faster than non-perishable food, but not as perishable foods. So they can be stored at room temperature for a certain period, but may require refrigeration once you open such product or food product, you will need to refrigerate them. So let's look at the example of semi-perishable food. It includes bread and bakery products. Your bread and bakery products, fresh herbs, then soft fruits like bananas and avocados. These are all semi-perishable food. So let's look at storage of semi-perishable food. How do you store semi-perishable food? Semi-perishable foods have a moderate shelf life. They don't spoil quickly as your perishable food. As we have, for perishable food, they have a limited shelf life, very short one. But for semi-perishable foods, they have a moderate shelf life and require specific storage conditions to maintain their freshness and quality for an extended period. So essential tips for the storage of semi-perishable food. What are the tips you need for the storage of your semi-perishable foods? Number one is room temperature storage. Room temperature storage. Semi-perishable foods can typically be stored at room temperature for a short period, but it's crucial to pay attention to the product's packaging instructions or labels for specific storage recommendation. Examples of semi-perishable foods suitable for room temperature storage include soft fruits like bananas and avocado. So you can keep them at room temperature. You don't need to refrigerate them. So room temperature storage is one. The number two is refrigeration after ripening. Once it's ripe, refrigerate them. Once it's ripe, take them to the fridge and refrigerate them and put them at the right compartment. Some semi-perishable fruits and vegetables such as tomatoes should be stored at room temperature until they ripen. So you should store your tomatoes. The ones you are supposed to store at room temperature are the ones that are unripe. But once it gets ripe, take them to your fridge and refrigerate them. Once ripe, they can be transferred to the refrigerator to slow down further ripening and to extend their shelf life. The next is refrigeration for extended shelf life. For most semi-perishable foods, refrigeration is the best way to maintain freshness and prevent spoilage. So the refrigerator temperature should be set between 0 degrees centigrade to 4 degrees centigrade to slow down bacteria growth. The next is use proper containers. Use proper containers. Store semi-perishable foods in airtight containers or resealable bags. You understand, to maintain their freshness and prevent exposure to air, which can lead to spoilage. The next is avoid overcrowding. We talked about this also in the perishable goods and foods. Avoid overcrowding. Avoid overcrowding the refrigerator as it can hinder proper air circulation and cooling. Arrange items in a way that allows for adequate airflow around each food item. Label and date items. Same thing with the way you did for your perishable, you should do also for your semi-perishable food. Label containers with the date of storage to keep track of the freshness of semi-perishable foods. Consume the oldest item first to minimize food wastage. Not that you will not consume the one you just got today. You got some last week and you kept them in the fridge, or you kept them at room temperature and you got another one today, and that's what. No, you start from the one you bought the previous week, so that to elongate the shelf life of this new one you just got. Then monitor freshness. Regularly check semi-perishable foods for signs of spoilage, such as mold, off odors, or discoloration. Discard any items that show signs of deterioration. Then keep away from strong odors. Don't store them together. There are some good foods that, like onions and garlic, that have very strong odors, strong smell. Don't keep them with some fruits. It's going to affect it. It's going to give it some odors that will not make the food, that can even affect the food content, the fruit. So some semi-perishable foods like fruits can absorb strong odors from other foods in the refrigerator. Store such items away from strong smelling foods like onions or garlic. The next is handle with care. Handle semi-perishable foods with care to avoid bruising or damaging them, as physical injuries can accelerate spoilage. Physical injuries, especially your banana. If peradventure when they were maybe transporting it, it has been damaged, you will see that particular side that was damaged will ripe very fast, and if care is not taken, it will get spoiled very fast. So handle semi-perishable foods with care so that to avoid bruising or damaging. So we're looking at non-perishable foods. We have looked at perishable food, semi-perishable food. Now we're at non-perishable foods. Non-perishable foods have a significantly extended shelf life and do not spoil quickly, unlike the perishable food that have a limited short shelf life and your semi-perishable food that has a moderate shelf life. Your non-perishable food have a significantly extended shelf life and they do not spoil quickly, and they can be stored at room temperature for extended periods without losing their quality. So what are the examples of non-perishable food? We have canned foods like canned vegetable, your fruits, canned fruits, soups and meats. So we also have your dried foods, dry fruits like nuts, beans, pasta and rice. These are dried foods, so they are non-perishable foods. You also have shelf-stable beverages such as bottled water and juice boxes. These are non-perishable foods. And packaged snacks like crackers, chips, cookies, your biscuits. These are all non-perishable food. So how do you store non-perishable food? How do you store them? Non-perishable food have a longer, we already know that they have a longer shelf life, but that doesn't mean that we're not going to store them properly, because if you don't still store them properly, they can spoil. So they have a longer shelf life and can be stored at room temperature without the need for refrigeration. Proper storage of non-perishable food is essential to maintain their quality, not just their quality alone, but the nutrients it contains, and also to prevent spoilage. So what are the guidelines? What are the tips for storing non-perishable food? You know that most of your non-perishable food, you cannot store them in the fridge. You can't refrigerate them. You can put them in the freezer. You can use cold storage system for them. You're going to use, because some of them are dry. So dry, number one is dry and cool environments. You need a dry and cool environment to store your non-perishable food. Store non-perishable foods in a cool, dry and well ventilated area. Cool, 1, dry, 2, and well ventilated. That means you have enough aeration. Air is coming in and out. So keep it in such area. Avoid areas with high humidity, as it can cause mold growth and spoilage. Do not forget that some of these non-perishable food are dried already. So introduction of water or moisture content or high humidity can lead to their spoilage. Number 2 is airtight containers. Airtight containers. Transfer non-perishable items from their original packaging to airtight containers. You know, there are some that comes with original packaging. You can transfer them, you can remove them. If you see that this package and this particular package that this particular food came with it will not help to extend the shelf life, remove them from there and keep it in a more secure environment. For example, your rice or your beans, if you live in a pest infested environment, you can remove the rice from the sack or remove your beans from the sack and keep them in an airtight container to help to extend the shelf life. This helps keep out moisture and pests, ensuring the food remains fresh and safe to consume. The next is labeling and rotation. Label the containers with the contents and the date of storage. So label everything. For example, you have your salt and your sugar. Label it, because you might be in a hurry and you just pick one and you think you take one for the order. So label them with the right name and the date of storage, the date you store them there. Practice the principle of FIFO, that is first in, first out. The one you took in, that is the one you bring out and use. So you don't just take them haphazardly. So to use the oldest item first, preventing items from expiring and reducing food waste. Then the next is pantry shelving. Pantry shelving, that is, to use shelves or cabinets in a pantry specifically designated for non-perishable food storage. Organize items in a way that makes them easily accessible. You understand? Organize them in a way that you can easily access them. You don't need to go through much struggle before you access such food. So organize them in a way. It's a way of also storing your food, of preserving your food, preserving its nutrients, and also keeping it or extending its shelf life. Then keep away from heat and light. You know by now, in our first video on food storage, I talk about heat, light, and oxygen as one of the factors that affect that affect food storage. So keep them away from heat and light. Store non-perishable foods away from direct sunlight. You understand now? We talked about this when I talked about ultraviolet ray in the second video that I still talk about this food storage as once you expose such food to them, they spoil the food faster. So store non-perishable foods away from direct sunlight and heat sources, as exposure to these elements can degrade their quality and nutritional value. Then the next is canned goods. Check the expiry dates on canned goods before storing them. Before you store them, don't just say I just got this this particular tin tomato from the market today. I just got this beef and this corned beef from the market today. Check the expiring date. Check the expiring date so that you know how to store them properly and how to use it. So keep canned foods in a cool and dry place and avoid dents or budges in the can, as they can indicate spoilage. Then for dried foods, store dry foods like pasta, rice, beans, and lentils in airtight containers to prevent moisture absorption and insect infestations. The next is packaged snacks. Keep packaged snacks like crackers, chips, and cookies in their original packaging, or seal them in resealable bags to maintain freshness and crispness. For example, maybe your chips you've already taken out of it, reseal it again, so that to elongate or to give it a longer shelf life. Package your snacks properly. Then the next is bottled beverages. Store bottled beverages in a cool, dark place to avoid temperature fluctuations that can affect taste and quality. The next is read labels. Read your labels. Pay attention to the storage instruction on the product labels. Some you will see them, they will say put in a dark corner, do not expose to light. Follow those things, because the people who produce such, they already know the shelf life of it and they know what can easily lead to its spoilage. So strictly adhere to whatever instruction that have been given on the label. So some non-perishable foods may require specific storage conditions for optimal freshness and taste. The regular inspection. From time to time, periodically inspect non-perishable items for signs of spoilage, for sign of infestation of pests, for packaging damage, and once you notice any, discard any items that show signs of spoilage or are past their expiry. They don't say you will manage them, because you know that there are foodborne illnesses and it can even lead to severe cases such as death. So don't say you manage them, dispose them immediately, discard them, trash them immediately. You find out that this particular non-perishable food has a dent or it's showing signs of spoilage in them already. So now let's look at common foodborne diseases caused by improper food storage practices. You know, I said it, I think that should be in the first video on them. Food storage, that we're going to look at some diseases that are caused by improper food storage practices. Improper food storage practices can lead to the growth and spread of harmful microorganisms, causing various foodborne illnesses. These diseases can range from mild gastrointestinal discomfort, that is, we're talking about you having mild stomach pain, to severe stomach upset, and even life-threatening conditions in cases where toxins have been introduced, because toxins can be very poisonous and can lead to death. So let's look at some of these diseases that can be caused by improper food storage practices. Number one is salmonellosis. So caused by the Salmonella bacteria. So this is caused by Salmonella bacteria, commonly found in raw poultries, eggs, and other raw or undercooked meats. So improper stored or cross-contamination foods can lead to the spread of Salmonella, resulting in symptoms like diarrhea. You know, our induction question is what causes diarrhea. So you know now that the disease and the organism that causes diarrhea is called Salmonella. Is a microorganism and it causes diarrhea, and this you can get it from raw poultry or other raw or undercooked meats. So you can be infested with Salmonella, resulting in symptoms like diarrhea, abdominal cramps, fever, and vomiting. The next is capillobacteriosis. So bacteria are often present in a raw or undercooked poultry, unpasteurized milk, and untreated water. So improper stored or handled raw poultry can be a source of campylobacter contamination, causing symptoms similar to salmonellosis. So you already know now that if you don't properly keep your food, you will be infested by these microorganisms. The next is E. coli infection. That is Escherichia coli. That's what we call E. coli. It's a bacterial strain that can contaminate undercooked ground beef, raw vegetables, and unpasteurized milk or juice. So poor food storage practices can contribute to E. coli contamination and lead to symptoms such as severe abdominal cramps, bloody diarrhea, and even kidney failure. You know that that is almost like a death sentence. You understand? So you need to keep your food properly. Keep your food properly. The next is listeriosis. Listeria monocytogenes is a bacterium that can contaminate daily meat. You know, I talk about daily meat like the meat that have already been pre-cooked, they have been processed already, your soft cheeses and refrigerated ready-to-eat foods. So inadequate refrigeration and improper food storage can facilitate listeria growth, resulting in severe symptoms, especially for vulnerable populations like pregnant women, older adults, and individuals with weakened immune system. And the last but not the least disease we'll be looking at is norovirus infections. Norovirus is a highly contagious virus that can contaminate various foods, especially those handled by infected individuals. Improper hygiene practices during food handling and storage can contribute to norovirus outbreaks, leading to symptoms such as vomiting, diarrhea, nausea, and stomach cramps. So you already know, you can know that diarrhea now can be caused by either norovirus infection or salmonella infection. So proper food storage is needed if you need to avoid this.